If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Cult Vault Podcast, your dedicated podcast for uncovering the darkest corners of cults and coercive control. I'm your host, Casey, and I want to start by thanking each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support fuels our deep dives into these critical issues. Before we get started, a word of caution. Today's episode may contain discussions on abuse, including graphic descriptions of abuse, and covers a variety of human rights violations that may be triggering for some listeners. Please consider this as a trigger warning and proceed with caution. I'm thrilled to announce that I'll be appearing at CrimeCon UK in London on the 7th and 8th of June 2025, and again in Manchester on the 27th of September 2025. Join me and a host of world-leading experts, advocates and noisemakers at the heart of the true crime community. This is the UK's biggest true crime event, and you won't want to miss it. Use the code CULT, C-U-L-T, for 10% off your tickets. And remember, there are flexible tickets and payment plans available to accommodate everyone. This incredible event is sponsored by True Crime, and it's always my favourite weekend of the year. I hope to see some of you there. And for those who want even more from the Cult Vault podcast, you can access early, ad-free content by supporting me at patreon.com/thecultvault, where every pledge not only gives you exclusive access, but also directly supports the continuation of this work. Thank you again for your support and your listenership. Now, let's unlock the vault. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Cult Vault podcast. I'm your host, Casey, and today I'm joined by somebody you probably all know, somebody that's been a long-time friend of the show, and somebody who's here to brighten up my day with some comedian values,
Sure, comedic fun times. It's going to be great. That's a lot of pressure. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
Shanny, please introduce yourself to everybody listening.
Yes, I am. Shanny Pants is kind of my name I go by, but I'm Shanny Payton. And yeah, I've known Casey for a couple of years now and kind of got introduced to her through the whole cultiverse thing that we do. And yeah, I live in California. I have a son and 2 daughters, and just busy life with fun hobbies like podcasting that are super easy hobbies that take up no much time. I love it so much, but I'm very happy to be here today.
One of the things that I wanted to tell you, which I think is so fun, I'm going to read this out and you tell me how accurate it is. I typed into ChatGPT, who is Shanny, who hosts the Shanny Pants show? And this is what ChatGPT says to me.
Oh no.
Shanny, the host of the Shanny Pants show, is Shannon Payton. She is a content creator and podcaster known for her comedic fashion and makeup tutorials on social media. But she also explores deeper and more personal topics on her podcast. Shannon, who is based in Rocklin, California, discusses a range of subjects including her experiences growing up in a cult, overcoming infertility, and navigating foster care and adoption. Her approach combines humor with candid discussions aiming to empower her listeners by connecting with their own experiences and finding strength in vulnerability. What do you think about that?
Wow. For once, it works really, really well. I love it. Oh, now I want to go look everyone up. That's amazing.
I was just interested to see what it would say, and I thought that was pretty well-rounded. You should use that bio on your website.
I know. I'm serious. That is amazing. You have to email that to me.
That's listened to the Shiny Pants show probably knows a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about today or heard tidbits of it before. I've been on your show and talked about my journey through podcasting, but today I want to ask you all about your experiences in all the different areas that you explore, both on your podcast and through your social media platforms. So I guess we start chronologically at the beginning and talk about your experiences being born and raised in a cult.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
that small little thing, that tiny
right.
little.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. Just that little thing, which really, it is funny to say it's a little thing, but it took me, years and years and years once I got out to even call it a cult or realize that it was a cultic situation. But I was born into a very high control, religious, like Christian based, Bible based cult. And I was born in 81, and I had two sisters and we were all born into it. My parents were both born into it. So I was kind of third generation, and the group kind of started with my grandparents' generation. And it kind of started as like we don't want to do organized religion. We're just going to have little Bible studies in our house. And I think it probably did start out, innocently enough, how most of these do. Well, not most of them, some of them. And so it's, it kind of started out like that. And then I was born. And so, through the years of growing up in it, there was some different shifts through leadership where things would get more controlling. And then just kind of the basics of growing up in it was, as far as like what things made you stand out or made you different, people will ask. And we had to dress with long skirts and, no tank tops, no piercings, no tattoos, no makeup, no nail polish. So kind of the basics. But growing up that way, very few people in our group went to public school, but my sisters and I did. And we definitely, definitely stood out. We lived in a very small town. So we went to school K through eighth, and then also into high school with pretty much the same kids. So, they got to know us, that we were just different. We didn't celebrate any holidays except birthdays. So we weren't allowed to participate in a lot of things at school. And I think it just made for very insecure, for me, for sure, a very insecure child, constantly doubted myself. And of course, now looking back, I think far back as I can remember, I was probably a very depressed child and just didn't, and anxious, but just didn't know it. And it wouldn't have mattered if I did know it, because we couldn't have done anything about it. And mental health's a lot different now than it was, 40 years ago. So there's that. But yeah, so that was we lived in the small town my entire life growing up. So I was with pretty much the same friend group always, and we never were allowed to do things with our school friends. So your friends were this group, and it was a very weird dynamic where it was like you knew everything about everyone, but also the relationships were so superficial. So it's just like you feel like you're just living a fake life all the time. And my sister and I, which we got it from my parents, we always kind of pushed the boundaries, and we're kind of a rebellious family. Like my parents would take us to Disneyland, and we would go like on family trips where most families didn't go on family trips. It was only like group trips. So we were pretty rebellious like that. But my sister and I, we pushed it. And so like in high school, we would like try to get away with wearing stuff, and then we would get reported. And so my dad, they called it men's meetings. So whenever there was a problem with your wife or your kids, they would have men's meetings that only men were allowed to come to, of course. Even young, they could come to, but you have to be a male. And they would discuss, how to fix the problem and such. So my poor dad was in men's meetings all the time. So yeah, yeah, it was an interesting life growing up, and it is nice to be able to look back now and kind of dissect it and realize how much how much it impacts who I am today, and how I have to think about that almost daily, as far as my reaction with my kids, how I act in life, how I want to show up as a friend. It really affects a lot of that day-to-day life so much. But now looking back, I can kind of go through the trauma of it and understand that, like, I can work on it. That's my life. It's not going to go away, but I can make differences now today. And of course, that's what I'm trying to do.
interesting to hear your kind of summary of that time in your life, and to think about some of the makeup tutorials that ChatGPT's just told us about that you put out on the internet. Because I grew up not really, I mean, I still don't know how to do my makeup or how to do anything with my hair or anything like that. But when you're somebody that's been born and raised in an environment that has like a purity culture element to it, that is like it's deeper than just, you know, the average child growing up and not really experimenting with hair and makeup like some of their peers might do.
Right.
So how is that for you, creating that content where you're mimicking these really complicated makeup tutorials, you know, like how to do winged eyeliner really easily, but then you know, you do these funny videos where actually it's not, you know, for those of us that don't know what we're doing, it's never going to be easy.
Right. And it will never be easy for me. Yes, that I just kind of stumbled into that, but yes, it's so much fun. And even once I got out, so I was 31 when I got out of the cult. So I was an adult. We had our first son. We adopted him when we were still in the cult, and that was a whole experience. But yeah, so I was an adult. So I never really learned to do makeup. So even when we got out, I would even say as a kid I was kind of like a tomboy, or it would have been if I was allowed to be. And so I mean, look at me. I don't care about makeup or hair. Every time I talk to you, I love it because I'm like, yay, we match. And look at our hair even today, like amazing.
A hairband and a couple of pins, just get it out of my
okay.
face.
Okay, that's fancy then. You're ready for the stepped up tutorials. I think you're ready to advance. But yes, doing the tutorials is hilarious to me because a lot of this started during COVID when like I started like looking at social media and being on social media more. And these influencers, like it's awesome that people like have the ability to be so creative with makeup and hair and anything really as far as influencing goes. But for me, it's like the opposite of how I am day to day. Like I'm so casual. And a lot of the friends that I got out of the cult with are beautiful and they do their makeup and they watch YouTube videos on how to, and I just have never found it necessary. So, and I do wear makeup. Like I will wear makeup. I have a little bit of mascara on today. It helps me if I put it on. It helps me like not cry.
Hang on, wait.
So,
Don't do it. Don't do
Yep.
it.
Gonna start looking real good. But yeah, so I've just never really taken it seriously or cared. And so when I came across these makeup tutorials, I think my sisters were the ones that got me going on it. And they're like, you would be really good at this. And I'm like, I think I would. So that's a lot of fun. And it is fun to go so extreme with it when I never was able to. It's great. And on that subject too, actually, it's been fun having my girls are 11 and 13 now, seeing them, first of all, have fun with it on Instagram and stuff. They think it's hilarious. But now I realized in the last couple of years how I have to kind of adjust my thinking about makeup. Not that I don't like it or care when people wear it. I don't. But having girls, I'm not the kind of mom that gets up every morning and puts makeup on. And so I've had to like get into it with them. Like, oh, you want to buy makeup now? Sure, let's do that. Like, because I don't even think about it really. And so I want them to have those experiences. So it's been so cool to see them get on watch a little YouTube video, and they really care. And I'm like, oh, that's adorable. So, it's still not me, but I love it for them. And it's super cute with all my kids to see them experience things that we never got to.
I love that. That's so wholesome. I mean, it's like you're learning alongside them. You know, you're going through those motions at the same time, even though you're an adult and they are your children, which is just, I think that's so wholesome. It's like my partner and I are both trying to learn how to braid hair. So my partner practices on my hair and then I practice on my daughter's hair because she is, you know, she's nearly 4 now and her hair is so long. It's like nearly down to her bum. And I just like, I'll put it in a ponytail and then plait her, plait her little ponytail or put two little bunches. I just don't know what I'm doing. And so I'm trying to learn. I said to my partner when we found out that we were having a girl, I was like, oh no, I'm terrified. I don't know. I don't even know how to be a girl. How can I have a girl? She's a feisty, fiery little one as well. But it's actually my son who's 5. He's the one that's like, I want a makeup set. Can you find me children's? He's like, can I wear your makeup? And I said, I don't know, matey, because some of that stuff are quite harsh on your skin and it's really made for adult skin. And he was like, can we get children's makeup? And then when it's non-uniform days at school, he wants to wear dresses and things, but he's at that age where it's so pure and innocent that I can't, I'm
Yes.
like, okay, mate, if you want to
Right.
wear a dress, you wear a dress because I don't.
Enjoy all the
And I
girly
worry
things
about
for you.
him. Yeah, of course, I worry about what other children will say to him.
Yeah.
But he came home and everybody loved his dress,
Oh
so
my gosh.
that made my day, and he was
Oh,
happy, and he got children's makeup for Christmas. So he's, sometimes he'll just put some pink blusher on his cheeks,
oh my gosh.
a lot of it, and look,
Do you let him do your makeup?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
he's
okay.
I think my daughter's more interested in doing my makeup than
Okay.
her own makeup at the moment. But
Yes.
it's just funny going through all of these things with your own children, and I
Yeah.
suppose your parents didn't really go through that with you and your sister.
No, not at all. Not at all. So it is fun. I
They
love it.
took you to the devil's playground.
I
That's a big
know.
no-no in a lot of these religious circles.
Definitely. It was not an okay thing to do. And we knew it. Like we would just know we're not going to talk about this, but we're going to go do it. So, real fun, hypocritical lives. It was great.
Was there ever a chance that your parents would be like kicked out of the group for doing things like that?
Yes. And, that's kind of when people say, like, why did you take so long to leave? Why did you stay for so long? It is, it's a hard thing. But with this specific group, it really, I mean, I think ultimately there was definitely some money involved, but it really was a control thing and a power thing, I think. But what they held over you was that we called it marking, mark to be avoided. And you would literally be marked. So my dad's best friend married his sister. And in the 80s, late 80s, I guess, their like whole family was marked, like a bunch of them at one time. They call it the split of the 80s, I think is what they called it. And so when I was young, I was like best friends with my boy cousin, Brent. And then all of a sudden, I wasn't allowed to see him anymore. And so it was really confusing as a child. And I can remember, like, in church, we'd always pray for those that have been led astray. And so as a kid, I'm just like, oh, I pray that he gets right with God and that he can come back. And, they're bad, bad, bad. So for years, we never saw them and we were never allowed to again. It was really sad. And I know that was really hard for my dad because it was his sister and his best friend. And then but my dad and his other siblings and my grandparents stayed on the cult side. So until basically, it's probably, yeah, I think when I was about 28, we ended up, things were kind of getting weird and people started to care a little less about what the leaders thought. So I remember we met with that family to take pictures of the whole family, which we had never done in our entire lives. My dad and his 3 siblings and all the family, and for my grandparents. And it was like an awkward, weird, like, this is so crazy. Like we didn't know them at all. So it was really sad because you looking back, it's like, gosh, we missed out on so many years together. But now, since I've been out, like 12 years now, I guess, we have reconnected and we're really good friends with especially with Brent, who I love his wife and we get along great. So it's been neat, and they have 2 kids, but it's been neat to see my kids be friends with their kids. And it's like, okay, this is how it should be. So it's been really, there's been experience that has come around. But back to what you said, that was the fear that they held over you was you would be marked. So you would if you did something risky, you would try to keep it on the down low. You usually would get pulled into a men's meeting anyway, and you would say, I'm sorry, and we'll try to do better next year. And then we'd go again. But that's what they held over you. And because, like I said earlier, our friends were this group. We did not have friends outside of it. And if you went to school or you had a job, you were discouraged from having any sort of relationship with any of these outside people. So being marked was a very scary thing because you lose your whole life. Everything you know would be gone. And I had a friend that was marked at one point, and she was allowed to come to our services, and she'd have to come late and sit on the back row, and then she'd have to leave early so that like none of us could talk to her or see her. And so like so much trauma, being on both ends of that, just a very weird way to grow up. But that was always a fear. It was always in the back of your mind. And again, I think that's what added to so much insecurity. It was like that was constantly on your mind. Anything you did is like, oh, well, I hope would be okay if he saw me do this. Like it was never God, it was the leaders is who you were fearing. So, kind of twisted, but yeah.
Like fear of losing everything, but also fear of being the subject of that ritualistic humiliation as well. You know how
Yeah.
people are talked about when they're not allowed to come back to service. You
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want to be one of those people, so you just
Right.
go with the motions, I suppose.
Yeah. And they make examples out of anyone who does. Like I remember when we were teens, a group of the guys went into because we didn't have an actual church. We would meet in like Grange halls, which are like little town halls that you can rent. And a bunch of the guys went into an actual church. It was this tiniest church you could ever imagine. And they went in and they sat on the back row and they stayed for like 10 minutes. Well, someone found out. So they all had to individually get up on the stage and confess to what they had done. And I mean, it's literally like public humiliation. And so you're terrified of doing anything wrong because it's the last thing you want is to have to get up on stage and confess to everyone. It was awful, but yeah, scary.
For going to another church as well, not like stealing from an old lady or knocking somebody over with your car and then driving off, just going to another church and sitting at the back of a different service for 10 minutes. I mean, I know that is a heinous thing to do in a lot of these high control groups, but I think sometimes just putting it into perspective with things that some people, in the public sphere might be humiliated for in a public way, it just makes you think, hang on a minute, like it's a bit extreme for just going to another church.
Yes. Well, now raising kids, and my oldest is 17, and I have a 13-year-old, but even kids in general, I'm like, oh my gosh, like they would just be on stage the whole time. They would never ever not be confessing. Like our kids would never have survived that environment. And I know obviously they've been raised different. But I'm pretty much daily grateful for that, to be able to see them. And yes, it's frustrating, raising crazy children, and life is crazy right now with all the things, sports and everywhere. But it's also like it's like they're experiencing what I never got to, and I'm so thankful for that. So
For the really normal developmental stages that kids go through, when they push boundaries and they participate in risk-taking behavior, because that's all part of kids learning how to become independent, and how much of a risk can I put myself in before I have to realize, oh, hang on a minute, I need to be sensible here. And of course there are bad things that happen when kids and that's why you're terrified. Like, why are you going to the park and setting fires? Like, why are you sneaking out at night when the doors are all locked? All of those types of things, why are you telling me you're staying at Stacey's house, but Stacey's mum's just called to ask if Stacey's staying here? Those those things that
Normal.
A lot of typical
Yes.
child stuff. I mean, not when you're in a cult, but
No.
you know, when
Normal.
you're
When you're
just
of the world. When you're of the
yeah,
world.
that's it. A secular child.
Yes.
So you mentioned having your first child in the cult and then leaving soon after that.
Yes.
So I am going to assume that you met your husband in the cult and you're still together now?
Yes, we are one of the very few.
Oh.
Because, I mean, so basically, so we would have these camps twice a year because we didn't celebrate holidays. So July and December, around those holidays, these were our fun vacations. And we would meet at fairgrounds in Central California, like farmland. And it was always foggy in December and gross. And it smelled like cow poop because it's all farmland and the fog just settles it all in. But anyway, so these were like a big events that we looked forward to because all of the assemblies were what each little division was called kind of would come together, and even we'd have people that might visit from Texas or Virginia. And so, you know, you never really knew who was going to be there, but it was very exciting. And basically, it was a meat market. So, it was like this is when you're gonna find your spouse. And it was like it was honestly one of the worst events ever every year of my life. You would sit in meetings, morning meetings and evening meetings. The evening meetings would go on to like 2 a.m. sometimes. Like it was ridiculous. And we'd have to sit all this time. But anyway, you would find cute boys and be like, so I had always like Dwayne was always on my radar since like I was probably like 9, I don't know. And then but when I was 12 is when I tabbed him like, "Okay, you're mine." And we liked each other. You didn't date, you didn't like go out, but you liked each other. So at 12 I knew I would marry him because that's kind of what you did. You just like committed and like, okay, because it's not like you had a ton of people to choose from. So if you pick one, you got to pick them and pick them good because most likely you're never breaking up with this person ever. So he's the only boyfriend I've ever had. So yeah, so at 12, I knew I was going to marry him. We actually waited longer than most. I graduated high school and got married the summer after high school. So yeah, and talk about an adjustment, like going we didn't, we didn't have any experience in life. And so you go into like all of a sudden living and you live at your parents' house until you get married. So all of a sudden you're like thrown into real life and it's like, whoa. But yeah, so and everyone was invited to your wedding. Our weddings were very weird. I remember a couple of friends from high school came to my wedding and they were like, because there's like 600 people at my wedding, and because anyone was invited, like every assembly would read the announcement and anyone could come. And so you just had like a cake reception after where you cut cake and like, drink juice or whatever. But it was huge. Like, I'm like, I don't even know all these people, but these people are here. So it was, and my wedding was a terrible experience leading up to it. It was a lot, I wasn't a fly under the radar kind. Here's the thing, I never would have spoken out like I would now. But inside I was furious, but no one would know my emotions. So now everyone gets to know my emotions. They're all out here. But yeah, so married young, we are still together. It has not been easy. I would say most of the people that also left the group are divorced, and rightfully so. Most of us should not have been married in the first place. It was just what you got. So yeah, it's been really, really hard, and we've had to do a lot of work to stay together. But we are really good friends, so it's been worth it. Yeah. Now we've got 3 kiddos.
I love that. I love that so much. Having your partner as your best friend is just like a whole other like wonderful experience.
Yes.
I say to my partner, just don't go to work today. Just stay
Aw.
home. Be with me all the time. Just be with me all the time. And every time he gets home from work, I'm like, he's back.
I love
And
that.
he's so sick of me as well. He's like, okay, come on, give me some space.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
So you're still together.
Yeah.
That's a whole other like when you both made the decision, I mean, I don't know if it was a joint decision for you to leave the group.
Yeah.
Was your recovery kind of, did you go through the motions together, or did it look completely different for the two of you?
Very different. And it was hard. The decision to leave was very hard. My parents were the first to leave that I was close to from our group. And then one of my sisters, I have two sisters, one had already been marked years and years before, so she was already out. And then but my husband's family was hanging on and they were staying in. So it was really hard for him, like he wanted to stop, but it was really hard for him to stop at the same time because and it wasn't even just the family draw. I think it was just so instilled in him as like, this is the right thing to do and this is what we're supposed to do. So we had a couple of years where things weren't great between us because I was ready. And it was very weird. Our relationship was so weird back then too. We didn't discuss things because you weren't supposed to be mad about things. You weren't supposed to have emotions. And so even as best friends, it's like we wouldn't talk about this stuff. So it was really weird and awkward time. And then he finally quit going too. His parents are still involved. They moved to a different state because the one up here by us is pretty much completely dissolved. So we're very proud of that. But yeah, it was very challenging. And then as far as recovery, we were so lost because we were taught our whole lives up to 30 years old, we're taught all these things and that churches are bad and pretty much everyone outside of our group is bad. So it was really weird to go out in the real world. Like my husband had to go get like a normal job and he's meeting people and he's like, "Oh, I met this really nice like Christian guy and his wife wants to meet you." And I'm just like, "Are we going to do this?" Like, "Oh my gosh." And he's like, "I know. I don't know." Like we were so afraid to just like introduce ourselves to other people because they're probably pretty bad. And so that was kind of the beginning of us realizing like, oh, not everyone's terrible. And then I had started working, or our son had some behavioral things going on as a toddler. And so we wanted to get him to preschool. And the most affordable that we could afford at the time was a church preschool. So I had him in there and then they wanted to hire me. So I started working there. And this was a big church in our area, but I got to know other people that considered themselves Christians, which is what we always considered ourselves. And it really opened my eyes to like, oh, okay, these people are like normal people. Like she cussed yesterday and, she has pink nail polish on. So, or she cuts her hair. So it really was a very slow awakening as far as because everything was scary. Like I think it took 3 years before we got a Christmas tree that was like 2 feet tall because starting out small is better or less offensive to God. I don't know. But it was hard. Like I want to say there was probably a 5-year period where we didn't know what the hell was going on. Like it was just so it was like kind of like throwing a 17-year-old out into the world that's not experienced in anything. So it was really tough. And like, I didn't go to college or anything. You just got married. So I didn't have any skills at the time. So yeah, it was really tough. And then I want to say probably 3 years after I left, maybe 4, it was the first time I went to a therapist because I just started having, which now I know is depression, but I didn't know at the time. I just thought something was wrong with me and, can you fix it? And I remember explaining to my therapist for the first time, kind of like, because it's all the basics. How do you grow up? Are you close with your parents? All this stuff. And so as I'm explaining my life to her, kind of, she's like, "Oh, okay. So you were raised in a cult." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. It wasn't a cult. It was just like kind of like a church, but weren't allowed to call it a church." And she's like, "Yeah, so that was a cult." And it was like, and I don't even think I told my husband that for probably another year because I'm like, he's going to freak out if I say it was a cult. And it was really hard to like grasp that like, wow. And I've always had the personality of just like deal with it. Like, because that was kind of how you're raised in a way was like, you shouldn't really have emotions. Like everything's fine. God will take care of everything. So why are you worried? Like whatever. And so I didn't. It was just kind of like, you just kept all this in. And I'm like, no, this isn't affecting my life. And she's like, no, that's called trauma. So this will affect your life. And so I'm like, oh, that's weird. But it took years to like kind of start unraveling it even a tiny bit. And then during the pandemic is when really I started, because of the pandemic and everything, like being stuck and the kids with school and everything, my depression hit really hard. And it was the first time that I was like, okay, I actually need help for this. And I ended up starting meds then, which was awesome. Um, but it's when I got serious and realized, like, I actually have like a lot of old issues that are affecting my day-to-day life. So it took a really, really long time to get to that place of maybe my old life is affecting me. And I still know friends that got out that would never admit that their old life affected them. Like they just got out and they're fine. And, and they're living life and they're fine. But I'd rather do the hard work now. And because it's really hard work. It's not fun at all, but it's been good. It's been very good for my healing, and like doing the podcast and stuff. It's been really good for me.
Do you feel like the psychoeducation that you've had through, interviewing other people that have experienced cultic environments and just having all of this extra knowledge, not just sitting down with a therapist and hearing the word cult and being told, well, you might have experienced this, really learning the terminology and being able to describe to yourself some of the things that you experienced. Do you think that that's had a positive impact on your healing, or is it sometimes like the burden of knowledge?
No, I think it has helped so much. And I have, different friends that have been on the podcast or whatever, but I never push anyone because not everyone heals through talking. And it's weird to me because I'm a talker. And so I'm like, I love this. And I, like you were saying, hearing things from other survivors, it validates more, because even still I'll have a hard time well, it wasn't that bad, or this didn't happen to me, so it wasn't that bad. And then I'll do an interview or something and I'll be like, okay, they struggled with, okay, this is validating. I did have a terrible experience. So it's been really, really good. And then I think too, just it has brought me to a place of having so much more compassion for myself and for others, because I did have that mindset of like, oh my gosh, just get over it. Like, come on, not just about cultics, but just life in general. Like, oh my gosh, you're such a baby. Like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Because that's how I dealt with everything. And so hearing other people getting emotional and talking about like real life true stuff has been crazy good for me, because again, all of our relationships were so superficial, even within marriage or families, it was very superficial. So it's been good for me. I love it. And I mean, it is hard too. There some interviews, how it is, that are so intense that it's like, okay, I got to take a couple days and think about this and kind of process it, because they really do affect you. Because I guess it does open your eyes to like how many terrible people there are in this world, and it's very sad.
Yeah, sometimes it can feel like all there is abuse in the world.
Yep.
And it can get like really dark and and very depressing at times. And I get a lot of existential dread as well. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're having all of these conversations, but nothing's going to change in my lifetime. And then it starts spiraling, and I'm like, whoa, stop. Go for a nap, quick, go to sleep. But you've mentioned there that some of the relationships that you had in the group was superficial. I imagine it's a lot of like, how are you? I'm so good. How are you? Oh, I'm so good. Like we're both so good, but I'm better, than you are. I'm just not going to say that out loud. Right. Yeah, a lot of that. But what is your relationship like with your parents now? Because they left before you did.
Yes, my relationship with my parents and my sisters are great now. And the thing is, they were never bad before. Obviously, my parents wish they would have done a lot of things differently, but they were always pushing the boundaries a little bit too. And so I think that helped our family have a little bit normal lifestyle. Like we had a swimming pool and we'd wear bathing suits, and my dad would wear shorts around the house, and he would let us wear sweats, so we had somewhat of a normal life within our home. And then since being out, everyone's gotten help that they need and learned a ton. And I know there's still like a lot of guilt, especially on my dad's part, of like, wishing he would have left when his sister got marked. But you can't redo it. And I have to remind him of that. Like, it doesn't matter, Dad. Like, we're fine now and everything's good now. But yeah, our relationships are really great now. And like, my dad is a great mentor for my 17-year-old. So it's really cute to see their relationship. And of course, the girls love going over to Mima's house all the time. But it's been really cool to see them, even since the kids were younger, to kind of freely help raise their grandchildren in kind of, unrestricted way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We hear all too often about how people don't have relationship. Well, I suppose it might be a little bit like this for your husband, don't have relationships with their parents anymore, or don't, haven't even met their grandkids, too much division amongst families and lifelong friends that happens in these situations. So it's really heartwarming to hear the relationship that you have with your parents and that your parents have with your kids as well.
Yeah.
That's
it really is
it's
great.
really, really nice. And I suppose that leads me nicely into talking about you like your husband before, you're 12 years old, you're like, I'm going to marry you. You're probably like not even allowed to hold hands before you just, you move in together and then you're like, okay, like, let's have sex.
No, basically. And no direction. And back then, it's not like you could like Google something and be like, how do you have sex? But yeah, it was very awkward. And again, and not even just the sex, just life in general. We didn't know how to be adults in the world. And so, yeah, it was pretty weird. And I look back, I'm like, how did we ever even survive? Like, I just don't even know how, because I don't know. It's amazing, but yeah. But yeah,
with this particular group, did you have like those moments where like you got married, you moved in, and then everyone was like, so like, when can we expect a baby?
Yeah.
Like, or is it going to happen soon? Was it one of those types of religious groups where that was expected of you as a woman to just like as soon as possible like be having children?
Yes. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a spoken thing, that expectation, but it definitely was what you did. Women didn't go to school or have jobs. And so you got married and you had babies. And if anyone like waited more than like a year, it was weird, like, why are they waiting so long to have a baby? And let's see, I was 19 when we got married. And then I think we took our time, and that was weird for people anyway, but we ended up like building a house together. So we just took longer. And so I was 24, I think, 24 or 25 when we decided like, okay, now we can get pregnant. The house is done, blah, blah, blah. So we, like, you stop taking contraceptives and you're like, okay, we're going to have this happen. And it never happened. We went through, I think, 3 years. Oh, it must have been earlier. I must have been like 23. We went through like 3 years of infertility. Did IFV. Wait, what is it even called? Intravenous? Yes, something. Intervaginal insemination, maybe? I don't even know. But we did it. And but we did several different things, or everything they could do. And we just had like so many different problems. And so we never could get pregnant. And at that time, it was like, we didn't know. We knew one person that had ever adopted a child. It wasn't like in our lives it was a common thing, or again, we knew one person that had ever adopted. And they were older. It was like one of my husband's aunts. So, it had been a while. But anyway, we're like, okay, well, I guess we moved to adoption. So we started researching. And of course, this was a long time ago, but we ended up getting in with an agency, doing an agency adoption. We had so much trauma go on during our infertility. And again, through all the infertility, it was just shove the emotions down. Like, you're fine, and then I would feel really guilty about like, oh, I must have sinned and that's why I can't get pregnant. Like what? And so I'd rack my brain, like, what did I not do good enough or what did I do wrong? And I can remember just laying because I had to do a lot of like laying when we did the infertility stuff and in vitro fertilization. That's what it is. In vitro fertilization. Intravaginal insemination. I'm like, that did not sound right. But I did a lot of laying around because you would have to like be on bed rest for a while after each time. And so anyway, so I'm like, I probably couldn't get pregnant because of how stressed out I was. And everyone would say that. Just relax and go on a trip and you'll be fine. So we did all the things. It never worked. And then it turns out later I had like extreme endometriosis and like I had to have like a full hysterectomy and yeah, it never would have happened. But we spent like all our savings on trying to make it happen. So anyway, we decided to adopt. We had so much trauma through the adoption experience. We had our first birth mom that we met. She was a scam artist. And so, yeah,
Gosh.
I know. It was like, could anything else go wrong? And we met with her, and she was supposed to have baby girl on December 10th. So we were all preparing for baby girl, getting all ready, doing all the things. And then the agency called us and they're like, you know what? She's being really weird. She's asking for way too much stuff. So we have to drop her as a client. You know, you guys can do what you want. And we're like, we need to drop her too because we went through an agency to be protected. And so that was like devastating. And then a week later, our social worker called and she's like, I just want to let you know. She didn't know we weren't allowed to watch TV. But she's like, if you're watching TV, this lady's on the news and, you know, you're going to recognize her, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, that was awful. And then like miraculous things happened and it's a very long story, but we ended up getting a baby boy on December 10th. And it was so random, so not through the agency. Like it was just one of those random things. I didn't even tell my family because I was terrified to tell anyone after what happened with baby girl. So I just showed up at my parents' doorstep with him in a car seat and was like, here's your grandson. And he was their very first grandson too. So it was amazing. And he was so freaking spoiled because he was the first nephew and first grandson my family, and for my family. So we did that. And then when he was 7, we adopted our girls and their siblings, birth siblings. So they were 14 months old and 2.5 years old when we adopted them. And I still say I'm still recovering from it. Going from 1 to 3 was very, very exciting, but it's awesome. And our lives are busy, but it's great. And yeah, but it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a very weird thing for us to be going through all that. And then you feel so judged because you know what people are saying. And so even through the adoption stuff, it was just like, it was so painful just to survive through that because people are, like I said, it was superficial relationships anyway. And then they just jump on any gossip that they can find. And it was pretty bad.
That's a lot. And the whole time you're going through this, I mean, just to have the experience, you know, again, like just to go back to like the secular world, to have those experiences in the outside world, you know, must feel impossible. But to have those experiences in an enclosed environment where there's so much to do with marriage and purity culture and raising families and the man being the head of the house and, you know, men having men's meetings or whatever else. That is like, no wonder you went to a therapist and you were diagnosed with depression.
Yeah.
One of these like 3 things that you were experiencing between the cult and the infertility and the adoption process, that's enough for, you know, one person to experience over a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
So to have all of those 3 things converge,
it was a
and
lot.
not have any way to describe what's happening to you. My gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And no
that's
support,
wild.
you know, no support at all. Like with the girls, it was different because we were out. And so like actually next month I'm going with 5 of my girlfriends that we kind of in our area. One actually was my social worker at one point, or the girl's social worker. we became friends and talk about support. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like they really care. And so we call ourselves like the adoption support group, and we meet every year because everyone's moved now all over, the country, and we're meeting next month. But it's been amazing to have just other moms that I can chill with and they understand, where before it was just like you just felt lost. Like it's a lot. It is a lot. And there's so many different scenarios that are different when you adopt, that that people that don't adopt don't understand, and so you kind of need that support from people that get it. And I never had that before, and I love it. It's amazing to have that now. It's so amazing to have it now.
That's like the unconditional love that's promised to you in high demand groups, but actually it is never really, I mean, it's not allowed, is it? I
Yeah.
suppose. So you're not
No.
allowed to unconditionally support
No.
or love anybody, because then, you're not all equal. Somebody's elevated. And if it's
Yep.
not the leader, then
Right. Watch out.
that's a big no-no.
Exactly.
So you've come on like a wild journey and had all of these really, really difficult experiences. And somehow on the other side of all of those things, you are like a comedian. You are lighting up your social media accounts with laughter and fun and silliness. Where does that come from? How are you able to hold on to that part of yourself when things have been so difficult?
It was always a part of me, and it was always a part of me that was like squelched because, as a woman especially, you can't be too much in the center of attention. And again, it made me that much more insecure of a young person. But my mom was always really funny. And so like I remember her and my aunt, they would like do little skits at our house, and like they were always very funny and fun. So I think it was just part of being the oldest and me. It was just my personality. But truly, even in just the last 6 years or so, has been, and again, a lot of it goes to healing and how I have taken the time and the hard work of doing some healing. And it's allowed me to be more of a real person and more of who I really feel like it's me. So that's really what it's been. And then as I was doing these things, because I think I even had a private Instagram account that just my sisters and I were on, and I would do stupid stuff like this. And then and then during COVID, they're like, you need to do that. Oh, I told you with the makeup. They're like, you need to do that, but on a real account. And I'm like, no. And then once I started doing it, I'm like, yeah, this is great. And it was very therapeutic for me to do the humorous things. And so like I would during COVID make videos with my kids because I was so stressed out trying to school these kids. And so I would do a video and it would relieve the stress, and it really really became a big part of my healing. And so it's been interesting the last several years as, my mental health has kind of changed. And as I age, things are changing anyway. So I've had adjustments, like actually, even with my podcast, I haven't done a show for 2 months, and it's all because of my mental health. And so I still have moments where like I just can't function basically with depression. And so I'll go through kind of these ups and downs, but I always come back to the humor. And I have to remember, like I have to go back to really old videos and look at myself and be like, okay, I needed to go back to there. Like that was fun. I loved that. I love that. I love that. And remind myself like how good it feels to be funny, and it brings joy to me. And then knowing it brings joy to others, like people would message me and be like, I've been depressed for, 2 weeks and I just laughed so hard today. And then that just warms my heart. I'm like, oh my gosh, yay. But yeah, so it's a part of me
Absolutely.
for sure.
I watch those videos and I relate to them so much. So, we talk about validation that people might feel listening to other people's stories of, coercion and abuse and recovery, and think, I can hear myself in that story. I have experienced those things in my story. When you're watching those videos on Instagram and, you're in lockdown and you're going crazy because you can't get out of the house, no one can come round, like there's babies and kids in the house, and you're like, oh, Like, it really is. I think it's the type of content that everyone can relate to on some
Yeah.
level, and I think that's why it's so. I don't know. It's one of those things. I don't like to doom scroll, but it is definitely one of those rabbit holes you can fall down where you just keep watching the next video and the next
Yes.
video.
Yes.
But there was one point where your Instagram account got hacked and it just disappeared.
Yep. The Facebook page, they're still running. They just added an S on my email address and they're still running that page. Yeah. It's
Like, it's
crazy.
like one of these, like, a group of scammers that just do this to other people.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And then I lost it again last year. So I've had to recreate my Instagram accounts twice now. And then like last week, I honestly haven't even looked at it because my depression hasn't been great, but I got an email, which I don't know. They're saying you need to revalidate who you are. We don't believe blah, blah, blah. And I've had to like get stuff notarized and sent to them. It's literally ridiculous. And I'm already verified on my Instagram account. So like they know to get verified that I'm a real person. But I don't know. I think people keep I really don't know. It's weird. And there's no way to fix it unless
Yeah.
you hire your own hacker to hack it back. And I don't have the money for that.
Anywhere that money can be made, no matter how big or small the amount, like, people are going to try and find a way to get some type of. I don't have that problem because I'm barely even like present on social media at all. And even if I was, like, I doubt that I would ever be able to like conjure a following of any type. But I get a lot of like videos being flagged on YouTube, content being flagged, like violating community guidelines, loads of really negative reviews on YouTube, downvotes and things like that.
Yeah.
So I know where that's coming from, I don't think it takes a genius to work out that there's a lot of disgruntled cult members that are not approving the content that's being put out. But that comes with the territory. With your stuff, it's like people need that humor, people need that fun, and it's annoying that certain people don't let us have that. They have to ruin it for everybody.
I know. And I've even had videos flagged on, I think, all my accounts of like, that's too dangerous or, warning or something. And I'm like, I see videos of like people riding motorcycles off of cliffs and they don't get flagged. Like, how in the world is my, jumping off of a ladder into my swimming pool too dangerous? It's not really that dangerous. Like, I want to be an Olympian. How can I help that? Like,
yeah. I mean,
rude.
Oh, I saw a thing once that said like the Olympics would be so much like better if it was like jury duty. You just get a letter through the post that says you have to represent your country in the Olympics this year. This is the sport. This is the sport you're competing in. Imagine you just got that letter through the door and you had to be on the like GB curling team.
That would be amazing. Oh my gosh. That would be just a very fun show that everyone would watch. They'd probably make so much more money if they did that.
But here comes Casey, mother of two, podcast host, and for this summer, pole vaulter. That would be good.
Ice skating, figure skating. I can't even stand up on rollerblades. That would be fun.
Dressage, if you've never even been on a horse before.
Yes.
And Shannon Payton is doing the panache.
That would be amazing. That would be so amazing. I think we should start that.
So, yeah, I mean, we've briefly touched on everything.
Yeah.
That I wanted to talk about today, but really, I want to direct people that don't already know to your platforms and your content. So please do let everybody know where they can find you, audio, video, and otherwise.
All right. The website is shannypantsshow.com and my podcast is the Shanny Pants Show. And my social medias at the moment, because they're not hacked today, are The Real Shanny Pants on Instagram and The Real Shanny Pants on TikTok and Shanny Pants Show on YouTube, which YouTube is probably the one place that I will always be able to stay because they care a little bit more when you get hacked. But yeah, so you can find me at any of those places and I really appreciate you having me on today. This has been long awaited. We have had
I
to reschedule
know.
a couple times, and I miss talking to you. Like, I got so excited when I saw on my calendar that our appointment was coming up. I'm like, oh gosh, I miss her.
Well, I always love talking to you so much, and I just appreciate you hugely and the work that you do, and just how much joy you bring to people's lives. I've just typed in the shannypantshow.com, and just even now I'm laughing because your videos just pop up on the front page of your website. It's so funny. This one, when mums get kidnapped, I watched that one and I was like, that is so, so accurate. Like,
Please take
imagine
me
you're like, oh,
away.
it's so quiet in here.
Been a while.
So
Been a
good.
while since it's been
So
that
good. And I
quiet.
just found out that the White Claw can that you use is actually a candle.
Yeah, this one
So
is.
this whole time I thought you would just
No, no, no. Just this one is the candle, not all of them, honey. We would
I've
not have
got
made it through COVID if they were all
a
candles.
I've got a
But
12 pack in the fridge right now.
you know what though? In the drawer behind me, I have an empty one. And even back in COVID, I would just use water because it's clear. The liquid is clear in a White Claw. So I would just fill these empty cans with water. And, of course, everyone thought I was an alcoholic, but I'm like, well, it's actually water. And I had a big Tito's bottle and it was full of water. So
And
that
you're
was
like,
fun.
judge me if you want to.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Oh, believe me. Yeah. Oh, believe me. Worst mom ever.
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't like I know that there's like an outpouring of support on your Instagram posts, but I do not envy anybody that has to like go through the comment section of content that they create in that capacity, because
Yeah.
people would pick faults in everything. So you have
Oh,
to have
yeah.
quite a hard skin, I think, to
Mhm.
put that type of content on the internet. Like, how do you deal
Yes.
with that? Do you just laugh at people, or
Yeah,
I,
I
I don't
do.
know.
And a lot of times I won't see it, but my sister, the middle sister, she gets intense about it, and she'll be like, "Go delete this comment, so and so, blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Okay." And so it doesn't bother me, I wouldn't say, but I can see how it does bother people because with my depression, I feel like gets hit with the techie stuff, like when the accounts get hacked or my accounts closed down because I have so much content on them. And like my original ones that got hacked, I don't have any of that content back. It was just on there. And so I don't have any of that. But that stuff is more what like will depress me or I'll let it get to me. With the comments more, I just can roll with it because I'm like, I try to think of like everyone's fighting their own battle type thing, and who knows what's going on in their life. And I'm sure if I was allowed to act out in anger back when I was going through a lot of trauma, I'm sure I would have acted out in a lot of anger too. So, and it is
Mm.
funny though, I get a lot of the alcohol, like abuse, like that I'm alcoholic and that I'm a terrible mom because like I'll do sarcastic things with the kids or whatever. And I'm like, they were a part of that. So they're fine. But then they'll say that that was traumatic too. So I don't respond. I'll just go in and delete it. But it is funny sometimes. Sometimes I'll leave it. Sometimes I'll respond to him like with a video because it's great content. So I'll be like, here we go.
Like, any interaction is gonna make the algorithm happy, is what
Right.
is what I think.
Yep.
Negative comments.
Exactly.
You've still viewed my video. You've still
Yep.
pushed it up there. So thank you very much. Thanks for
Exactly.
watching. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Shani. Thank you for coming and telling us about your experiences. Thank you for the content that you put on air. Is there any words of wisdom that you would give to people that are recovering from a significant trauma in their life, whatever area it may be in?
I would say like for me allowing myself to have feelings because that was so stunted in me and learning kind of how to process the feelings was big. And then I have had people say, or you hear this a lot, it's like, well, what if I don't have money for therapy or I can't, go do that? There is so much online now in books that have been probably just as helpful for me as going to a therapist or even listening to podcasts. I listen to a ton of podcasts and it is very therapeutic. So if you have a specific, trauma, just research it and there's also a lot of negativity on the internet too. But there is good things. And so I do think even if you don't have the money to pay for a therapist, like I've been on a like year-long therapist break and I'm ready to go back. But it's been okay. Like there's things, journaling's really good to like get the feelings out, but there are ways to kind of process. But yeah, I think feel your feelings because that was such a scary thing to feel my feelings. But it's been like the best thing for me.
Mhm. And I suppose the healing never really ends. You don't
No.
just get to the end and go, okay, I'm all sorted now.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, that's for anyone in life, right? It's like we're all constantly improving, hopefully, but have something to learn always. But yeah, as far as healing goes, it's always going to be there. Always have something to heal from, I'm sure. Not lacking that.
I'll make sure I put all of the links to all of your accounts in the episode description so people can go and check those things out if they want to. If you need a laugh, I'll highly recommend it. And if you're interested in content that's slightly similar to this content, but has Shanny's twist on it, and coming from Shanny's lived experience as well, which is a place I can't come from, then go and check out the Shanny Pants show as well. And thank you so much, Shanny. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and we love you
Thank
so much, and
you.
we cherish
I
you,
love
and
you.
thank you.
Thank you so much.